Hello, all, and welcome to another episode of Your One Black Friend. I'm your hostess, Jolie, or you can call me Joe. So, today's episode is going to be a mix of the esoteric with a little bit of the practical. I'm going to talk about dating. I'm going to give dating advice. I know, totally random, right? Considering that we've been talking about parallel universes and AI and reincarnation and entities that we meet after death and if we're immortal, this and the other. To then take all of that and be like, let's talk about dating advice. It kind of seems sort of out of character, out of context. But you know what? I think in this day and age, why not? I think it pays to have an esoteric perspective on dating, if esoteric is even the right word. Here we go. I have a friend that's just entering into a relationship. They've asked me for my advice. I have given them my advice. However, I know that they're not going to take my advice, right? But I figured, you know what? The advice that I have for them is actually really good advice. So I might as well go ahead and record it for posterity. So at the very least, should they come back and ask me the same question that they've already asked me, I can just go ahead and send them the link to this episode. Saves me the frustration of having to repeat myself, and also allows me to share said advice with people who might actually take it. It's I'm not being passive aggressive at all, but you guys know how that is, right? When you have a friend that comes and asks you a question and then you tell them and then they do the opposite of what you told them to do. And you could see the mistake that they're making, right? And they can too, which is why they're coming to ask you for advice. However, for whatever reason, they've got to see it through. Got to see it through, my boy. Right. So this is what this episode is going to be about. There's a slight pettiness, just a little bit, just an inch of pettiness where I'm recording this so I can be like, I fucking told you so. Which is a side note. Guys, I'm petty. I think one of the first episodes of the podcast, I don't know how long you guys have been listening to Your One Black Friend, but there was a podcast episode called I Am Cheap and Petty. It still applies. 2000, was it 18? Still applies. I'm not as cheap as I used to be. And I don't mean cheap I'll spend money on experiences. I'll spend money on my family, and my friends, people I care about, I'll blow money. But it's little things that I'm just oddly cheap about. I discussed that on that episode. If you can find it, go for it. I think I took it down, but it might be on YouTube somewhere. Anyway, I am cheap. And this ego, this personality of Jolie she's a little petty. She's a little petty. I think it's always funny to me when people kind of say things, they leave comments asking if I'm AI or whatever. And I realize that I think because I present a certain way, when I'm talking about these discussions where I'm filming a video, people don't actually see that the more human aspects of me. And I'm just just talking, and the way these videos are edited, it seems like I'm just a very serious person all the time. And I'm really not. I'm a practical joker. 9 times out of 10, if something is inappropriate to say, but it's hilarious, it's really hard for me to not say the inappropriate things. And sometimes I will say it. I don't say it on podcasts for obvious reasons, but people who know me know that I'm not above recording a whole ass episode just to later on be like, I fucking told you so. And here's the episode where that all the advice I gave you, here it is. But of course, the lighter aspect of me also goes, you know what, this is valuable information for anybody. So here's the advice, right? A little backstory, a little foundation. They just started seeing somebody and most of their interactions are super red flag interactions. And I don't say red flags in the sense of to dismiss a whole human being. Because we're all walking red flags. If you really sit back and think about how traumatized all of us are just existing in this reality, just really base level trauma, just really think about it, right? All the shit that we've all been through, all the shit that we're going through right now, and then all the shit that our parents have gone through, and then their parents, and then their parents' parents, and then we're being raised by hurt people, right? So, and hurt people hurt people. So we're just carrying a lot of baggage. That's the weird thing to me when people are like, oh, you've got baggage. It's yeah, so the fuck do you, right? It's not even just the shit that you've gone through, you're experiencing in reality. It's also literally in your genes. There's something called inherited generational trauma, in the sense of you're carrying in your genes the trauma, the PTSD symptoms of your ancestors. It's epigenetics. So we've literally got our own shit from this experience, but we also have like the shit from like our ancestors. It's been passed on genetically. Not to mention on a spiritual and an esoteric level, we're also carrying the karma. If you believe in such things, we're carrying that energy from all of our past lives and all of our past incarnations and everything like that. And if you've been guilted into coming back into this reality, you're probably carrying guilt. All of that is contained within this one entity that you call a self. And then you're like, oh, that person's got like baggage. Yeah. So the fuck do you, right? And you have red flags. And I am not an easy person. I know I'm not. I'm not an easy person to be in a relationship with. As a result, I don't have a lot of friends. I've got very high standards and expectations from people, because I hold myself up to such like ridiculously high standards that I don't know how to like be friends with like normal people. And I don't know how to like not impose my expectations of them being the best possible human being that they can possibly be on them, because not everybody wants to be the best possible version of them. And I don't want to be around somebody who doesn't want to be the best possible version of them, right? So you can see where there's a fucking conflict there, right? So some people might label that as me being, I don't know, like a walking red flag, or like high maintenance, or hard to get along with, this, that, and the other. So this episode is not to point the fingers. It's to fully acknowledge the fact that like, we're all a little fucked up. We're all mad here. This is a madhouse. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just kidding. I'm clearly kidding. I'm insane, right? Have you read my book? Right. So we're just all doing the best that we can with what we've been giving. However, there are certain red flags that are just not conducive, certain behaviors that are just not conducive for healthy long-term relationships. Notice I didn't say for long-term relationships. I'm saying for a healthy long-term relationship, as healthy as a relationship can be in the reality that we found ourselves in. There are no normal people. There are no healthy people in the sense of like this textbook version of like healthy, right? Or this textbook version of normal. That is a myth. Perfection is a myth. It does not exist. But there's just certain behaviors that long-term may not lead to a sustainable relationship. And this friend that I'm sort of trying to advise, the person that they're dating is like, they've got a lot of those red flags that I'm saying, like, I don't know if this is something that will be helpful for your relationship long term. This individual really needs to sit with their demons and make themselves aware of it. Because I think that's the first step. Like, we all have our sort of demons, right? It's not the person with the red flag who's just like barreling through life, not realizing that, okay, like, you've got to sort this out. Like, those are the people that kind of end up like just creating toxic, connections. If you own your red flags, own your baggage, and then you are willing to tell the person, listen, these are my wounds. Okay. I can be insecure. I could be like, I could be an overthinker. I could be self-conscious. Just stay with me, right? Work with me. Let's get through this together. The way I move is not meant to hurt you. I'm not trying to cause you pain. It's not intentional. It's just like all of my trauma from all of my relationships, but I'm fully aware that I have these issues. I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to make me happy. I just need you to just like be there with me, forgive me, and then allow me to grow past this. Let's talk it out. Let's communicate. Let's not argue. Let's try to stay conscious. Let's try to keep each other conscious, awake, aware in this reality. Sometimes the game will take over and then like I become like an agent of the simulation and I act out. Forgive me. Let's hold each other's hands and just like never let go. Isn't that beautiful? Like, don't you want that? Right? But that takes a certain level of self-awareness. It's not that you have red flags. It's the lack of self-awareness that your behavior is potentially triggering like other people. It's triggering to other people. Like, that's the problem, So you have to be mindful. You also have to be open-minded to the fact that like, okay, if your behavior is triggering to the person, like if they lash out, like you should be able to pause and go, okay, that might have been me. And if you are arguing, if you want to argue, I'm going to like allow you to vent, but I don't want to engage and then further compound this like argument, this negativity. And now we're both fighting, right? These are difficult things to do in a relationship, but you want a partner that is willing to do that with you, more or less, right? That's what that's the ideal partner. The ideal partner isn't somebody without red flags. The ideal partner isn't somebody without trauma. That doesn't exist. And if it does, if there is somebody who's just lived the perfect life, they're not going to understand you because you've not lived a perfect life. If there really is an individual out there that's just had everything handed to them and they had the perfect parents and the perfect childhood and I guarantee you will not get along with this person because they can't understand you, let alone empathize with you, because they don't know what it's like to go through the shit that you've been through. You get what I mean? I saw this video. They were saying, like, imagine you have two people. You've got one person with a pair of glasses and their glasses are like perfect, right? And so their whole life, they've looked through life through perfect glasses. And then you have another individual who, like, they started off with perfect glasses, but then like over time, the glasses cracked and then cracked and then cracked and then cracked. And then now the way they're seeing reality is a bit distorted. And it's too far a distance between when they saw clearly and how they see the world now, right? So you have somebody with like crystal clear vision who's trying to be in a relationship with somebody who has like distorted vision. And the person with perfect vision is not going to understand why this person with distorted vision sees the world that they do, right? In our minds, I think a lot of us are trying to look for other people with like that perfect vision, which I think is where the origin of the term red flag came from. Oh, that person's got a red flag. Oh, no, I don't want to deal with that. It came from a space of judgment, right? But if you can kind of turn that and go, listen, we've all got cracked glasses on. Let's not pretend that all of us have like perfect vision. Some people's cracked lenses are properly cracked and they need to go and get that like sorted, get that fixed, right? Because there's a chance that their vision is so distorted that they could further crack yours. Those are true red flags. I'm talking about people with like mental health, like issues that have not been addressed, right? There's nothing wrong with having mental health issues. I'm saying mental health issues that have not been addressed. Like, to go back to my point that I was making about 5 minutes ago, it's about being self-aware, right? I'm talking about really serious issues, right? If that person isn't aware of their behavior and how their movement, like if somebody who, for example, is afraid of commitment, but then they're out there saying that they want to be in a relationship and then they're moving in like relationship ways, but then a woman or a man who's ready for an actual relationship comes along, and then this person who doesn't actually want to be in a relationship because of whatever they've been through wants this other person to give them like relationship benefits and acts like they want a relationship, but all the while their intention was never to actually relate to them if they're emotionally unavailable, right? Then that becomes abusive because one person is coming in wanting something. This other person is coming in wanting to take something. If this person is still operating in the mindset of like this other person actually wants a relationship when this person all along just wanted to take intimacy, take partnership, take, comfort without actually wanting to put anything back, they could end up further damaging this person. So if you are unaware in your heart, one, that you have commitment issues, pause and reflect. Two, if you are this person and you're looking at this person and you're going like, this person is like not actually, like they don't actually want to be in a relationship, it would behoove you to remove yourself from the situation. Otherwise, you will end up, that's another trauma. Okay? So I don't need the keyboard warriors being like, oh, this is that means it's narcissist, like that. Like, all right, this is all being said with the full awareness that like there are outliers, okay? And obviously avoid being in a relationship with obvious outliers. It's very important, I think, when you are engaging with a person to pay attention to how things make you feel. Here. If shit doesn't make you feel good, that's enough. It really is. If the relationship is bringing out feelings of, I don't like the way this makes me feel, that's enough for you to go, I need to pause and reflect on this. I'm not saying that like you're getting into an argument and you don't like the argument, but if the person is moving in a way, you know what I mean? If people are moving in a way that makes you sort of like second guess yourself, you start feeling like lower. You start feeling like you're losing like self-respect. You start feeling like this person doesn't respect you. This person is talking to you like they don't respect you. You're starting to develop like a diminished sense of self-worth when you're looking at your interactions with this person and you're starting to feel like, wait, I think this person really only wants something physical. Which, if that's what you want, that's fine. But if you actually want a partnership and the person, no matter what you say or how you move, they keep just moving everything back to just the physical. If that's not what you want, and then it starts to make you feel some type of way, pay attention to that. Take a step back. You know what I mean? If somebody is devaluing you, you come into a partnership as a whole human being because you are a whole human being. And then your interaction with this person starts to make you feel diminished. And you find yourself sort of like bending and bending and bending and bending and bending and cutting because you're like, well, I thought relationships were about compromise, but then you're the only person compromising. I'll say that again. You're the only person compromising before it gets to the point where you look up and don't even recognize who you are in a relationship anymore. Pay attention to that icky feeling. It's kind of like here, it kind of feels like heartburn a little bit, but it's like, pay attention to that. And it's enough for you to say, no, it's enough for you to go, let that be enough for you to take a step back and say, I don't want this. This doesn't feel good. I don't like how this makes me feel. I don't like how that behavior makes me feel. You don't have to compromise who you are as a person. You can compromise in a relationship. It's give and take. But you don't have to just keep getting taken from just to secure a partnership. I had a friend call me yesterday. Everybody's kind of having like relationship issues. No matter I think about it. It's a different friend than what I started talking about. But a different friend talked to me. And they're very kind person, right? And they were saying to me how they're with this individual, and this individual is sort of just like all over the place in terms of, well, I'll just say she, like she's not watching this. She's saying like she wants a relationship, but then she's also like kind of flighty. Like whenever my friend tries to get close to her, she literally will move. Like she'll go to another part of the country, or she'll dump him, go be with somebody else, and then come back. And she's doing this because she knows that no matter how she moves, he'll be there. Because he's operating from a space of like love. But he's also operating from a space of like fear. And I kind of had to call that to his attention. I said, I think that's what you're doing. You are, because is this what you want? And he was like, no, not really. Like I like certain aspects of the relationship, but it's not really fulfilling me, right? Because this friend, literally, he was like, I don't know what I want. I said, yes, you do. I can tell you what you want because I'm paying attention. You know what you want. Because obviously, if you're complaining about this person's behavior where she's not around, then that's not what you want. Otherwise, you wouldn't be complaining about it. If I wanted a burger and I got a perfect burger, I wouldn't say, fuck this burger. We don't complain about things unless it's not the way you want it to be. If you get a burger and there's like a pickle missing, you go, I wanted a pickle. But it's all right. You're not going to like be like, I'm sending this burger back. If you get a burger and the meat's not cooked, that's kind of a slightly different problem, isn't it? The complaint is going to be different than, okay, I wanted a pickle and there's not a pickle in here. And so he's in a situation where he's moving with the energy of, okay, there's just a pickle missing, but his meat's like raw. Like the shit's not cooked. It's almost a burger, but you can't eat that. It's going to make you sick. He's trying to take little bites out of it, but obviously it's making him not feel emotionally well. He's feeling emotionally well. And I said, listen, what the universe is going to do whenever you start off, I've said this before, if you start off with an intention, you're going to say, I want this. So in my friend's case, he wants to be settled down again. He was married in a long-term relationship for a very long time. And so that's, let's say, 15 years of being in that comfortable, I've got a wife, I've got kids in that space. And then the relationship ended. And there's a part of him, even though he's been kind of on his own, more or less, there's a part of him that just wants that kind of like partner. It's like that turtle. I'm a turtle. I want another turtle to just kind of be next to me. and have that life with me. That some people are just like that. They just need like their person that's going to be there. Like probably like a boring person who just wants to watch Netflix and go out to dinner and go for walks. Like that shit. Like that's my friend. That's how he is. And somehow he's like met somebody who I think at the beginning presented herself as that partner. But as time is kind of going along, she's now moving in this way that she's not like a turtle with him. She's like a fucking like hyena. Like she's just like wild. And I'm like, bro, like that's not what you want though. The things that you're complaining about are the things that, because that's not what you want. But this was also their first relationship after, the marriage ended. And so sometimes, a lot of the times, when you go to start something new, like whatever your new endeavor, whereas a dating or whatever, like be prepared. Like it's the first few relationships aren't going to work. Just like your first few attempts at starting a business aren't going to work. Just like your first few attempts at starting to try to play the guitar isn't going to work. That rule does not change. You have to be mindful of that. You're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. Maybe don't kiss them. I don't know. But you're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. That's just the game. That's just how it goes, But what he said to me was, I'm afraid. And I said, before you finish that sentence, do note that whenever you start a sentence with, I'm afraid, I do this to myself. Anytime I catch myself slipping and I catch myself saying, well, I'm afraid, that is a red flag for me. That is a huge, hey, Joe, you need to be paying attention to whatever is about to come out your mouth. Because when I start a sentence saying, I'm afraid this is going to happen, what that tells me is that whatever actions I'm about to engage in to stop what I'm afraid of happening from happening is what's going to bring about the thing that I'm afraid of happening. I'll say that again. If you catch yourself saying, I'm afraid that this is going to happen, and then you are changing your behavior to stop that thing from happening, in the sense of you're not operating from a sense of like, okay, I don't want this to happen, so I'm going to do everything in my power to make this, to make this work. You're operating from a space of, I'm afraid that this thing is going to happen. So now I've got to like do something in order to like stop that from happening. The energy is different. Case in point, back to friend one, their partner, right? Here's two energies. Their partner is afraid that my friend is going to leave him or leave her for like another woman, or like women are going to like approach him and then she's going to get left. So she's afraid that the relationship is going to end. And so out of that space of fear, she is now acting in very controlling ways. Like, I don't want to get into too much details, but basically she's just like about him on like what he posts on social media, who he talks to, the friends that he has around, like all of that, boom, 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 boom. And that behavior, there's nothing wrong with feeling insecure or being afraid, because especially if you've had relationships in the past where that's how your relationship ended, that your partner in the past maybe cheated on you on social media or through social media, it would make sense then that this new partner will trigger that trauma, and then you will sort of want to control the situation by saying, well, I don't want you moving in this way on social media, because, well, that's their pain talking. And that's them trying to like control the situation so that they don't end up feeling the pain of rejection. Again, the problem is that by being that controlling, what it's causing my friend to feel is like the ick, right? And I was just like, hey, nobody wants to be controlled. And that kind of behavior, this is just the early stage of this relationship. That kind of behavior is unsustainable over time. And should this person continue in that controlling behavior, it's actually going to cause him to leave her. Ultimately, in the long run, it's another thing. If the energy was, I just want my relationship to work and I'm going to do everything in my power for this relationship to work. Do you see how the energy is different? Because then it's like, okay, what is in my power? I'm just going to try to enjoy my person. And most importantly, I'm going to try to like laugh with them. I'm going to try to have fun with them. I'm going to try to just like day by day get to know this person and just create like a pleasant experience when I'm with them and go through life together. And hopefully they reciprocate, you know? Is there a chance that a relationship isn't going to work out? If you're going to go into a relationship, like this isn't, we're not living in Disney World, guys. There's a chance a relationship will fail because it's life. Something I basically had to tell my friend was, listen, if you're afraid of your relationship, like this is something that people say when they get into a relationship. Well, I don't want to get hurt. Well, then don't get in a relationship. I'll say that again because you may not want to hear this. That's okay. What people say when they get into a relationship is, I don't want to get hurt. In fact, people move in ways, and I'm not preaching, I'm stating facts because I've done this exact same thing. I've just had to check myself. You entering into a relationship with another flawed human being, you will be hurt. They will disappoint you. Like they will do the wrong thing. That you, whatever idealized version of them in your head that you have, is going to over time kind of crumble away, and you're going to just see the person for the traumatized human being that they are. And that's okay. But going into a situation and saying, I don't know why I did that. There's no hair to talk behind my ears. Force of habit. Going into a situation, I just, for those of you listening, I try to like tuck my hair behind my ear, but like my hair is short as hell. But going into a situation and saying something like, you know what, I'm just like, I don't want to get hurt is wild. You're going to get hurt. Own that shit. Own that shit. If I'm going into a situation, I'm going in with like, you literally cannot hurt me. Do you see how the vibe is different? Like, you can cause me pain. I'll be all right. Nigga, we gon' be all right. You have to move with that energy. Let me tell you how I broke things down. How I broke this down, okay? So what I said to my friend was, listen, that's just the whole controlling thing. That's been there from the jump. And I was like, but they don't want to listen. That's all right. The thing is, the reason why my friend doesn't want to end the relationship with this person who has a lot of stuff that she needs to work out. She does, you know, and he's willing, unfortunately, for him, he's willing to take the hits not because he loves her, because they've not known each other long enough for him to say that truthfully. That's not a judgment call. I've been in situations where like I thought I was in love, and then life was like, nah, that wasn't love. You were like, you just like, that person was hot. All right. And then you go through shit and you start to realize what love actually is. The amount of like sacrifice, the amount of like being like having to be open-minded, having to just like see everything about this person, everything, and still be like, I see God in you, and still take their hand and still want to walk through life with them and just watch their back no matter how many times like shit has gone down. That's love, right? It's almost like an act of conscious will. It's not this like feeling. If you're like feeling, that's lust. And there's nothing wrong with it's not even like lust. It's like, I don't want to diminish it because there's something going on there. There's like a longing for one. So I'm not even gonna call it lust. Like if you're at that stage where you're like, I love this person, that's kind of obsessive a little bit. It's something here. It's something pure. Like to me, that feeling almost feels like, reminds me of something like you would feel maybe outside of this reality, where you just want to be close to the person and you just want to trust them and know that like they won't hurt you, and you just want to see the best in them. I feel like that feeling comes from like the fourth dimension, like from a reality outside of this one. But that can't really be, it's not terribly sustainable in this dimension because of all the shit that's going down, all the trauma that I talked about. So I don't even want to dismiss that as lust. I do think that it's something like spiritual, you know, and maybe you've had a connection with that person in a past life, and that's what your soul is sensing. Your consciousness is sensing that. You just want to like just consume them, you know, and that's okay. But there's all this other like real life shit in this reality, in this dimension, that you have to sort of deal with. What I said to them was, I know you don't want to. What I said to my friend is that, I know it sucks to be alone. Like being alone, being lonely, not being in a relationship is painful. But so is being in a relationship. And as they've only been dating for a very short amount of time, what I said to my friend was, I know you don't want to end the relationship now because it's painful if you end it now after like a few months of like at least being able to say I have a girlfriend, you know, that feels good to be able to know like, okay, I've got somebody and somebody's got me, regardless of all the bullshit that you're going through. On some level, there is a pleasant feeling of just like having somebody. I get it. But there's still pain with that. And if a person is moving in a way where literally it's just one thing after another, which like I said at the beginning, it's not the red flags that's the issue. It's the red flags that, it's not red flags in general that's an issue. It's red flags that make it so that your long-term relationship is unhealthy and draining and can fundamentally crack your glasses and change you to kind of make you a worse partner down the line. Because, honey, I'm not the same person I am now as I was in my 20s because of some relationships, because of the wrong relationships. I put wrong in quotes. You know, I wish I could see relationships in the way that I did in my 20s, but I've had too much shit happen that I can't afford to have that like vision. Like there's just real, I would literally have to have my memory wiped to see things that innocently again. And these are things we have to be mindful of when we enter in relationships, because if you stay long term in a relationship with somebody who is fundamentally like, they have stuff that they've not processed and they're unaware and they're unconscious, and then you're just trying to even be conscious on your own, you could fundamentally end up damaging yourself just by exposure to this person. They say, for example, the person, like I think they say the top 5 people you spend the most time with will affect how your life becomes, right? Like, so if your 5 friends are successful, then you become successful. If your 5 friends are like drug dealers, the odds of you being a drug dealer becomes, right? Because you are the company that you keep. Now, imagine a relationship with somebody who is like unhealthily, like they're emotionally unhealthy, right? And not like the base level, you know, whatever, but like their actions and the way they move over time is going to hurt who you are. It's going to fundamentally change you and then change how you will be. And in my opinion, it could also damage your ability to relate to somebody who you are more compatible with in the future. And so what I was saying to my friend was, okay, you don't want to end this relationship of like 2 months, 3 months or whatever because of the pain that's going to come having to end a relationship of like 2-3 months. But if you continue down this path, the pain is accumulating. Everything ends in pain. That has been one of the most liberating phrases for me. I'm not going to be afraid then, right? Of situations if it's all going to end in pain. What do I mean by that? Okay, best case scenario, you meet your absolute soulmate, you love them, you spend your whole entire life together. Chances are that person is going to die. And unless you guys just happen to win the lottery in like relationships where you simultaneously die at the exact same time, more than likely that person, either they're going to have to watch you die. I'm sorry, I know it's dark, but it's real. I don't make the rules in this reality. Either they're going to have to watch you die or you're going to have to watch them die. That's pain. So that's one type of pain. It's where everything goes. I mean, yes, you will have the beauty of all of these sort of like gorgeous experiences with them, which is like ideal and perfect, you know, in an ideal and perfect world. Yes. But then how it ends, that almost all of these like beautiful experiences leading up to that ending makes it like even tougher. Like it'd be different if you just like kind of didn't like your partner, right? And then like at the end, you're just like this is real talk. Like you study this, that some partners, when they lose their significant other, they feel a certain sense of relief. I'm not making this up. And that's because relating to another individual is difficult because of all the shit that I said, like compatibility, like, you know, inherited trauma, all the stuff that's going on. That's just kind of like, we're all wounded trying to like get through life together. Right. But let's say best case scenario, you're with this person and this person is literally like your soulmate. Well, it's going to end in pain. Accept that. Okay. Now we put that over there. Right. But then you're in a relationship with somebody that you're not compatible with, but you don't want to end it at 2 months because it's too painful. What do you think putting 2 years in is going to be? Because now you've invested 2 years of pain with this person. I hope you're really hearing what I'm saying here. Because in those 2 years of being with somebody that you are fundamentally incompatible with, for whatever reason, either they need to work on themselves or just, I don't know, the simulation's fucking with you. That's 2 years of pain, of argument, of not being understood, of like butting heads. And then think about what 2 years of that shit is doing to your psyche, especially if you're not like working on being a conscious person. And especially if your partner isn't either, or you are with an unconscious partner. That's 2 years. With the 2 years of argument, is it better than taking like another like year to like just keep kind of dating and finding the right person that you're more compatible with? Not the perfect partner. I don't believe in perfect partners. I don't. I don't believe in soulmates. I don't. But I do believe in compatibility. You know, just like some zodiac signs are compatible with others, this, that, and the other. Like even the personality test, Myers-Briggs, right? Some, you know, personality types are compatible. Like I that's how I see things. I don't think there's just one person out of like billions of people. You got to find your one. Because if there were, your soulmate is probably not in this reality the way this game is set up. Like, right. So the 2 years in which you've now put in because you didn't want to like suffer for 3 days. So now you're suffering, but it's not like an intense suffering of like dealing with a breakup for the 3 days. It's now this like 2 years of like arguing, butting heads, arguing, butting heads. Now it's 2 years in. And then that 3-day process that it would have only cost you 3 days of pain. Everything costs, guys. It would have only cost you 3 days of pain at the early stage. Let's say after 2 years, now the relationship ends. Now you're like now you're different, right? Because you've also spent 2 years engaging with like a narcissist, or, you know, somebody who is like emotionally unstable, or somebody who just refuses to heal themselves or is unconscious. And that has now sort of diminished you, changed your perspective on yourself, how you feel about yourself. You're not the same person as you were today. And then because now it's 2 years in, you also have 2 years of memories, 2 years of photos in your phone, 2 years of introducing them, and all of these other experiences in your life. They're now a part of your life when they would have only been a part of your life for like 2 months. Now they are like taking like 2 months in like 70-year lifespan is really kind of small. 2 years in a 70-year lifespan, like that's a big chunk. So now you've got 2 years in, and then if you end the relationship in 2 years, that 3 days to get over that person may end up taking a year or 6 months. Everything costs and everything ends in pain. What pain is what I wrote. Choose your pain. What pain are you willing to choose? Like what level of pain are you willing? You can control it. You can consciously say, okay, like I'm going to move in this way. You can, this is actually terrible. It's actually really good advice I told my daughter. It's just going to sound terrible. What I told her was when you enter a relationship and you start realizing that the relationship isn't working, you're better off over time, slowly, like emotionally distancing yourself from the person so that by the time you're ready to end the relationship, you're like psychologically prepared. Like, I gotta look out for my kid. Okay. Like you don't want to like, because if you try to cold turkey it, that's really hard. You're like, really, you are in a way addicted to the person. Like there's pheromones involved, oxytocin is involved. So like you just cut that shit off, you're gonna suffer. But if you like are dealing with a person, you just start to look at them and go like, wait, I don't know if I want to actually deal with this person for the rest of my life. Don't just shut that shit down. Like it's over. Like don't do that. Like slowly like start going to the gym if you let yourself go. I know guys. I know you guys are judging me right now. No, but it's true. Because the hardest part about relationships, and I don't think it's even like a bad thing what I'm saying. The hardest part of like if both people even come to the same conclusion, say, hey, this isn't working out. But like it's gonna hurt if we just like stop seeing each other and like abruptly just like separate. So can we just like slowly transition out of this and like fade away? But 9 times out of 10, when you tell a person that, they like will work harder to like get you back. So that's why it's like you should just like once you've decided, okay, like this isn't working, then just slowly over time, just start kind of disconnecting. But also you could also like to help the other person out. Also start being a little annoying too, so that when you do kind of end things, they're like, okay, yeah, you were kind of getting on my nerves. And then like, try to see if you can maintain a friendship, because another part of things that what makes breakups hard is that you go, okay, like I'm never going to talk to this person again, which like you don't know that. So don't borrow suffering, because 9 times out of 10 when relationships end, okay, not that often, but a lot of the times when relationship ends, you you might think, oh, well, I'm never going to be with this person ever again. And maybe you won't. But how does that benefit you now? There's a chance that you might be with the person 5 years from now or a year from now. So imagine you did all this crying today, like your relationship ends, you did all this crying, and then you end up together in like 3 months. So what were you crying for? Unless you know without a shadow of a doubt you're never going to be with this person again, which for whatever reason, if you know that with that certain level of certainty, then you probably were leaving them because you didn't really care about them like that. Then it doesn't make any sense for you to be like crying. Like it hurts, and you can cry. God, everything's so fucking PC nowadays. Like you've got to quantify everything and qualify everything so people don't take it the wrong way. So annoying. Anyway, you guys know what I mean, right? Like it's okay to cry. I get what I mean. But like if you are putting yourself through all the stuff, all the theatrics and stuff like that, of like like I'm saying prolong. I'm not saying like, because sometimes like that shit just happens. Like you're mourning your future, you're mourning the life that you're going to have with them, like kids that you were going to have, and just thinking about all the experiences that you're really going to miss the fuck out of that person. That's okay. But then there's sometimes where you cry because you're like, I'm never going to see this person again. And like, they're gone and I'll never get, like, you don't know that. Stop. Like, that's what I'm saying is unnecessary. Because then what if you do? And then you end up being friends. So like, instead of just cutting it off like cold turkey, like fade away, and then also try to maintain like a friendship with the person. Like, hey, it's okay. Like we can still be friends, not like immediately, because then pheromones and everything and oxytocin kicks in, and then you can kind of, your body goes, oh, this person's around, let's do stuff. And your mind's like, no, like this is not. And then that's how you end up in situationships, right? But you guys get what I'm saying. Back to my point about pain. Choose your pain. If it's all going to end in pain anyway, one, don't operate out of space from fear. I don't want to get hurt. You're going to get hurt. A person's going to hurt you. Because we're all hurt. Hurt people. And sometimes they'll do it intentionally and sometimes they won't. And even when they're doing intentionally, most people don't move with intention. They're not conscious. I should also say, because we're in 2023, I'm not talking about condoning like abusive relationships. Please. I'm talking about just normal relationships, not outliers, okay? If you are in a relationship where people are being physically or mentally abusive to you, please, like, get help, okay? I'm just talking about like a regular, just basic regular, relationships, day-to-day relationships. I have to say that as a caveat. Choose your pain, right? Either you end the relationship when you start seeing things, all right? Or you take a step back, that's okay too. When you start seeing things that are not conducive for a healthy long-term partnership, right? Or if you're so afraid of being alone, remind yourself that yes, being alone is painful, but so is being lonely in a relationship. And sometimes being lonely in a relationship is even worse. I'll say that again. Sometimes being lonely in a relationship is even worse than being alone. Keep that in mind. I want to end with this. Off topic. I think I covered everything, right? Yeah, I think I covered everything. It's a lot. Off topic. I don't even know if this should be a separate podcast, but no, I'll end with this. So this has more to do with death. I was having a conversation with another friend who had lost a family member, and they're trying to process it just recently. And it's hard. It really is. Because, see, unlike a breakup where there's a chance that you're going to see the person again, right? When it's a death, there is a chance that you're going to see the person, or you will see that person again, but unfortunately not in this reality, right? So when somebody dies, either they shift to a parallel universe, or they get reincarnated, or they, undertake a recurrence in another reality, right? Either way, like I lost my little sister. She's still out there somewhere. Either she's reincarnated or she's in the afterlife, in another reality, in another dimension. So the consciousness does not die, but I can't interact with her. I can't pick up the phone and call her. I can't text her. You know what I mean? That's tougher. That's way tougher than a breakup, because there's no coming back, at least in this reality. But what I said to my friend was, at the end of the day, yes, you will miss them, but take solace in this. Take solace in the fact that going back to near-death experiences, the majority of people who have had and have given reports on near-death experiences have all said the same thing, when they leave this world, the world outside of this one feels fucking amazing. It feels perfect. You know everything. It's pure love. They're at one with all human beings, like of all things. They're connected to everything. They have connection to the source. Everything is like pure love. Now, in the last few episodes, I've been focusing on the entities sending people back here and people saying they don't want to come back. That's what I've been focusing on. But for a perspective shift, I want you to focus on this. The simple fact that most people, like 97% of people who have near-death experiences, have said that the world outside of this one is pure bliss and timeless. It's timeless and pure bliss. So I can make the argument that when they do have a near-death experience and they leave this world, maybe they were there for hundreds of years before they come back. But the focus here is the fact that in this episode is there really is the world outside of this world really is better. I'll say that again. The world outside of this world really is better. It has to be. The Stoics kind of write about this. They say something to, I think Schopenhauer said this, Seneca said the same thing, where they basically said, and Socrates as well, when he was sentenced during hemlock, he basically said something like, well, we don't know that death is actually bad because those who have died haven't really been able to come back and tell us that it's the bad thing. We're just treating it like it's the absolute worst possible thing, which is why we get so sad when we lose, a loved one. But more and more technology advances, people are coming back and they're basically saying that no, like it's cool actually. And we didn't want to come back. And so to me, that made me go, okay, if this is something like, imagine, not even if, I'm not going to say that this is. So let's just say, imagine that this is a prison. Not saying that it is, but imagine that this is a prison and we're all prisoners here. We're in a madhouse. And then your cellmate gets released. Yes, you would be sad because now you're sort of like, your buddy is gone. But because you loved your cellmate, there's a part of you that goes, they got out of here. That is, of course, if you don't subscribe to the reincarnation. Now, we've talked about reincarnation and recurrence, but okay, best case scenario, they leave and then they exist in the space of pure bliss. That's not something you should really mourn. Mourn the fact that you're going to miss them, but that's it, right? Or they just come back here. But then if they're just coming back here over and over again, then once again, it's not that they end, it's that you're just going to miss them. And then I would make the argument that if we are all one consciousness, one immortal consciousness, it just keeps coming back over and over again, just send them thoughts. Thoughts are powerful. Don't believe me? Sit and listen to your internal monologue. See how powerful it is. And that's negative thinking. And think about how much it impacts a person. And then think about powerful, like when somebody's thinking something positive, like there was that meditation that they did where they had a bunch of like Buddhists kind of sit together and meditate, and they were thinking positive thoughts, and they were able to like change the vibration of like really dangerous city. I forget what city it was in, but that was just the power of thought. This happens to me a lot and has been happening to me more and more. I'll tell you guys a secret. It's worth saying. I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I do think that a lot of us have the ability to communicate telepathically with each other. The reason why I think that is actually based on the technology that they're developing right now. There's like technology right now that even without being like without like a Neuralink where it's like connected to your brain, they can read brainwaves, which means on some level we are sending out real energy. Like no joke, because obviously if you have something like Neuralink that can, read your mind or whatever, or they have technology out there that's real now, it's out there, then there's no reason why you can't communicate on some level with other people, particularly people you love. And if the mind is something that's non-physical and you are something that's non-physical, then a loved one without a body is also non-physical, but the mind doesn't really go anywhere. So you can still stay connected with a loved one, even if they don't have a body. So hold on to that. I'll tell you something, like I said, I've been kind of experiencing lately more and more, especially because I've been intentionally watching my thoughts. if I'm just kind of having like a regular day-to-day experience and then somebody kind of pops into my mind, but it's based on a chain of events that leads to them, it's connected to them, then they're not thinking about me. It was just like I was thinking about fries. This person actually loved fries. Oh, I wonder what this person is up to. If I'm just minding my own business and like all of a sudden somebody just pops into my head, 9 times out of 10, this person is about to text me or email me or call me. That's what I'm observing. You pay attention to that as well. Like people that you think about. If it's just like a chain of like, oh, I've got this pen. Oh, I should go to the store. Oh, wait, this person works at the store. Oh, I want to, like, if it's connected, and that was a poor example, but you know what I mean? Like if it's connected where, okay, it makes sense that you're thinking about this person because it's correlated to this person, this, that, and the other. So it syncs. That's fine. But if you're just like, oh, I wonder what's for dinner, this person's like pops into, they're thinking about you. They may not always confirm it with a phone call or a text, but the amount of times that I've had people like call me as I'm thinking about them, or I call them and then they go, I was just thinking about you. It's enough for you to start paying attention to that. Try it. Just take a week and try it. See what I mean? So then that tells me that non-locality is a thing. Quantum entanglement is a thing. Like obviously, like it's spooky action at a distance. So that tells me then, one, if you've ever been entangled with somebody that you love, especially genetic, like that's your mother or your father or your sibling, and you're sharing the same genes, absolutely you can communicate with them even like once they're out of the body because you're entangled. You're entangled with them. So no matter where they are in the multiverse, wherever their mind is or whomever they're in, on some level, you're still connected. That to me is worth paying attention to, holding on to. Try it. In fact, like there's certain people you could just like meditate on. I've actually been working on more creating like blocks, in the sense of, okay, like if that's the case, then I also need to work on mentally blocking people off, So I don't want to be thinking about y'all, but it's certainly worth experiencing or experimenting with. But that should, yeah. I guess to tie this back to to finish my point. So in the afterlife, everybody that has had what I've called a death experience, the majority of people that come back say that world is better than this one. Maybe like everything else in this world, death maybe not be the worst possible thing. If we're here to serve time and then somebody passes away, maybe they've served their time and their time's up. We should be happy because remember how I said everything ends in pain? Like that's the nature of our reality, Think about life. Yes, there are some very joyful, beautiful moments in it, but it's all, everything's got a shadow. And to think and to know that there is a world outside of this one where we can actually rest. And to think that when we lose people in this reality, they're actually going somewhere where they're actually resting and they're not dealing with the shit that we're going through on a day-to-day basis. The moment we open our eyes until we close our eyes, like it's different. And like I said, like everything else that we've been lied to about, like maybe it's not so bad. If you go in and you read books like After, and you read books by Life Before Life, Life After Life. Yeah, Life After Life. And you really take what these people are saying, you don't call them near-death experiences, you focus on the death experiences. Like I said, majority and overwhelming. Carl Jung had an NDE before he passed away. And he didn't want, none of these motherfuckers want to come back. That should be a hint. Like maybe we should be paying attention to that. Like maybe we shouldn't be really crying for people. Like we're all going to go to the same place. There's no heaven. There's no hell. If you really study the history of heaven and hell, you realize what it really is, especially hell. There's an afterlife. And then you probably recur depending on your belief, which is why I've had the last few episodes, because I really want you guys to not come back here. Don't fucking come back here. I'm here to tell you, don't come back here. Don't come back. Not to say that it's not great. It's great. It's wonderful. I love it here. Right. But really meditate on the fact that people who have NDEs, people who have out-of-body experiences, like they keep reporting that they don't want to come back here, that's a sign. Like, that's a sign that maybe we're the ones who... Why are you crying? Like, they got out. You know what I mean? Like, I do hope for the sake of people I love, not for my sake. I'm just making the best of my reality experience. But for the sake of the people I love, I hope that I do live a long life and I'm healthy. But should I, and if I do, nobody better be crying at my motherfucking funeral, bro. Like, I'm good. Because one, I'm cussing people out as soon as I get to, like, whatever it is that's like, you got to come back here. I'm going to be like, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not coming. No, I've done the podcast. I've done the books. I don't know if you guys saw the short that I posted on my Instagram. That's what I was saying. I literally went in there and I was like, if I've ever hurt you right now, I apologize. I'm sorry. If I ever hurt your feelings, if I ever said something to make you feel some type of way, I apologize. I have it on record now. It's on a podcast. It's on my social media. I'm sure whatever it is that runs this world also has access to fucking technology. I'm sure they gave us AI. I'm sure they it's their shit that we reverse engineered to like have phones and stuff like that. But that's another conversation. You heard me. I apologize. And I actually genuinely, it's not my intention. It's never my intention to cause anybody pain. And if I've done it unintentionally. And if it was intentional, it was done for a specific reason long term, either out of a space of like drawing lines and setting boundaries or to help the person. But if I hurt them in the process, I'm truly sorry. I apologize. And if I've ever hurt you, if you've ever hurt me, I forgive you. If you've ever hurt me, I forgive you. I really do. I don't forget that shit, but I forgive you, right? And the reason for me saying this is because do not let whatever it is at the end of life review use me to make you come back here, because I've already forgiven you. And third, and this was actually brought up in the comments, they were like, you've got to forgive yourself, which I didn't really think about it because I was like, it's a deterministic universe. I don't really hold myself accountable for shit that I do, but it actually is. And I know how bad that sounds, but if the world is deterministic and all of time happens right now, then like I'm just the player in the game doing the best that I can do. So if I do something wrong, it's because of the circumstances, right, that caused that wrong thing to happen. That's not necessarily my fault. I will apologize for the pain of the things that I've done, but I don't need to forgive myself because that was the program. You hear me? I don't need to forgive myself because that was the program. I'm just a character playing the game. But there are a lot of people who carry a lot of guilt for things that they've done in the past. Not everybody has that same perspective that I do, and I have to acknowledge that. Forgive yourself. You don't have to come back here. Release it. You were simply doing the best you could at the time. If you had the information, we talk about like regret and 4D, but you're in the you might be a 4-dimensional being, but while you're in 3D form, you're incapable of moving outside of a linear flow of time in a strong way anyway, unless you're some sort of like yogi that has worked on this over time, right? So anything that you've done, especially if you feel remorse about it now, it's because you understood that your actions, the repercussions of your actions, but at the time you probably didn't. And so you have to forgive yourself for the things that you did when you didn't know any better. And all of these three things will stop any entity from using guilt as a means to send you back into this loop. Forgive yourself, forgive others, and ask for forgiveness. It's funny, when I actually said that or left the video, somebody commented, I don't forgive you. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. This isn't about you. Like, you don't have to forgive me. That's on you. I've apologized. If you choose not to forgive me, that's on you. That's your energetic stuff. But I have absolved myself of it, and I've released it. It's if you're holding on to something, I don't even know who the person was. I think they're just trying to be dicks. But if you're holding on to something, it's besides the point. If you're holding on to something that somebody did, even after they apologized, the only person that you're hurting is yourself. I know, because I've been there. It's hard, right? Especially if the person says like, I don't forgive you. Like, that's theirs. I will actually read this. I wanted to read this before I go. It's about negative emotions. Hold on. So this is from The Fourth Way. I've been referencing it over and over again by Ouspensky. And so check these quotes out. We have too many wrong points of views about negative emotions. We find them necessary or beautiful or noble. We glorify them. We must get rid of all of that. Some people are very proud of their irritability or irritation. They like to be thought of as very hard. There's practically no negative emotion which you cannot enjoy. And that is the most difficult thing to realize. Now, why did I choose that quote? It's important to pay attention to the fact that sometimes, even in this reality, negative emotions, we kind of indulge. We indulge ourselves in the negative emotions. We indulge ourselves in irritation and anger, and on some level, even suffering. If we sit with that and pay attention, on some level, there's a part of us that actually likes suffering. That was a revelation that I had to really sit with. So what I decided to do with that information is actually see if can I lean into that enjoyment. What is that? What do I mean by that? Well, on one end, I'm going to work on and I'm working on being mindful of not indulging too much negativity, like watching when I'm getting angry and releasing it, because that's what he talks about. Like you got to release that. You can't indulge in it, right? You have to recognize that there's a certain part of you that enjoys the negativity. The first step is admitting that you have a problem. And the second step is like choosing to let it go, to not like engage, to drop it, right? So what I've been doing is sort of twofold. One, when I catch myself sort of like complaining or fault finding or like depressed, right? Because even on some level, when you're listening to that internal monologue, just like telling you, this is not good and this is not good, you start to kind of cry, you start to feel low. On some level, there is a part of you like own this, that you enjoy it. And so when you catch yourself feeling sorry for yourself and kind of like self-soothing and that crying and things like that, if you can wake up in that moment and go, okay, no, we're not doing this, and then take conscious steps to counter that and shift that, I think you'll find that there's power there. I caught myself doing that today. Like the internal monologue started and I was like dropping, and then I realized like I'm indulging in this negative feeling. Like it sounds weird, but I had to be that fucking honest with myself. And I was like, you can either keep like reveling and listening to this, or you know what you need to do to shake out of this. And so what I did was I shook out of it. I went, got on my bike, played music, started biking. That was the counter. Started stretching, started taking care of my body, went and drank water. But the movement and the music together and then singing, that's breath work, that raised me up. Because what I'm trying to do is like substitute in the sense of when I start feeling like shit, feeling down, I'm now consciously, intentionally living with intention and going, okay, we're going to trade this in for something that's going to counter that, something I can control. All the shit that my internal monologue is telling me, this, that, and the other, I can't control that. But this, I can control. I can go on my bike. I can do some sit-ups. I can lift. I can work my body. I can go eat a salad. I could do this. And then that dissipates. And also catching yourself, like indulging in that feeling sorry for yourself. Woe is me. Like it's real talk when you go, okay, like actually there's a part of me that maybe enjoys feeling sorry for myself. I'm not saying this applies to everybody. This is just my shit. Once again, all right. I can't be PC all the time. I'm not saying, so I don't need anybody like, well, actually, it's people. Yeah, I get it. I'm one of those people. But this is what I had to catch myself doing. But then the counter to that, the yin to that was, okay, if there is this is weird, but it's true. If there is a part of myself that indulges in negativity, then can I sort of work with pain to make me a stronger person? There's an episode about this that I kind of really delved in on. I have a few episodes on pain, but I think that episode specifically is called It's Just Pain. That might be worth listening. I think it's from like late last year or like a couple of years ago, but it's worth listening to. But it's worth also revisiting. Now, here's just like a Cliff Notes version of it, is that can we like, instead of like this is a very Spartan, I've been getting a lot of like Spartan, like, 300 vibes in my mind like lately. Can I move with the mindset of a Spartan in the sense of training, but not physically training? I mean, yes, I've been biking and working out, things like that. But also training my mind, right? So when I catch myself in situations, rather than trying to like indulge the pain or even like avoid the pain, can I choose my pain? Can I go, okay, this is a situation that could cause me pain. But I'm still gonna engage, right? Because long term, there's a bigger benefit from it. So if Ouspensky is right and he's saying that there's a part of us that enjoys pain, then I'm going to control the pain. I'm going to choose the pain that I give myself. For example, working out. That's if he's saying that there's a certain enjoyment that comes out of pain, then there is a wire in my brain there's something in my brain that does get enjoyment from pain. Okay, then I'm going to engage in something that is like potentially painful, but by paying with pain, I'm going to get something beneficial, right? Everything costs. Okay, well, I've just put in the 40 minutes on the bike. That's the pain. What's the payoff? But that's me now choosing the experience or having a conversation with somebody. Like normally in the past, I would like avoid certain like interactions because I just didn't want to deal with the blowback or to hear the person like the confrontation, like all the stuff that comes with that, because to me that's painful. But if Ouspensky is saying that, well, there's a part of you that enjoys the pain, okay, how can I use that to my advantage? All right, fine. I'm going to say what the fuck I want to say to this person. And if it leads to like a confrontation, not like physical, obviously, that's not what I mean. Then so be it. I'll take the hit. If they say some shit to me that's going to hurt my feelings, that's fine. Because there's a part of me that will derive a certain level of pleasure from this painful interaction. However, where's the payoff? The payoff is I stood up for myself, or I did something that I wouldn't normally do, right? If there's something that I want to post, right? Where's the pain? The pain is, people are going to judge me. That's painful, right? Normally, I would avoid the pain. But if Ouspensky is right and he's saying, well, actually, there's a certain level of pleasure that you get from experiencing pain, I then take that. And it's alchemy. And I go, okay, fine. Yes, people are probably going to think I'm crazy. That's the pain. But my individuality is strengthened, right? Like I'm doing something that I want to do. I'm expressing myself. That's the payoff. I could go on. Sometimes you have to do things, right? It literally is what I'm talking about here is like alchemy in its truest form. If you're saying that there's a part of me that derives pleasure from like negative, emotions. Well, pain is a negative emotion. I could go about losing my temper, right? I enjoy that. But in a situation where I'm interacting with somebody and they're trying to piss me off, indulging in that anger is pleasurable. But here's another experience that's going to cause me another sort of like pain, which is not reacting. So denying myself the indulgence in losing my temper. Like that feels good, right? Losing your temper and being self-righteous, even though it's detrimental to your body, it feels good. But if you take it a step further, like this is some Inception shit. You go, okay, fine. This righteous anger feels good. And there's part of my brain that likes, like enjoys this. So I'm going to like deny myself that indulgence. And instead of losing my temper on my partner, I'm going to calmly say, I'm sorry that my actions hurt your feelings. When they would have expected me to be angry and I would have gladly indulged in that anger, it would have felt good. But to turn it and say, you know what, you're right. Or to just really take a step back and go, you know what, I get where you're coming from. I really do. And then just walk up to them and like just give them a kiss and just give them a hug. And just like, I really want to be angry right now, but just take it in. Even that denial of that negative emotion, it doesn't feel good, but then it does. So the denial of expressing that negative emotion feels bad, but then it feels good because there's something in our brain that gets pleasure from pain. I keep repeating it because I want it to really sink in. It's very nuanced, but once you get it, it's like, oh shit, right? And that's a Spartan way. That's a warrior way. I don't even want to make it like unique to that area. I'm like worldwide, there are warriors, but it's like mental, right? This is something else I do. Fasting, right? Just gluttony, overindulging in something. It's like, it feels bad, right? So the counter to that is fasting. Well, fasting also feels bad. But at the end of you like overindulging yourself, you feel worse But at the end of a fast, even though you've gone through a painful situation, right? It's not necessarily painful, but it's like, it's certainly not pleasurable. You start to feel actually really good. And so the denial becomes a pleasurable experience. I'll say that again. The denial becomes a pleasurable experience. That is how you start to really rein in and control the psyche and become more and more a disciplined person, a person who has disciplined herself. This is probably not going to click for a lot of people, and that's okay. But for those of you who it does click for, maybe it won't click now. Maybe it will click in 3 months and you go, okay, I get what she's saying. This is something I do even with like sweets. I fucking love cookies. I love cookies, gluten-free cookies, butter, even cookies that are not gluten-free. I should not be eating wheat, but if you get me like a shortbread, like those like Scottish shortbread, right? But I will intentionally deny myself because, one, going and eating those cookies, I know they're bad for me. And I'm indulging in a negative feeling because eating something that's bad for me doesn't feel good. And it ends up causing me pain, like inflammation in my gut. But on some level, if Gurdjieff is right, then maybe there's a part of me that's wired for that certain level of suffering, because why am I doing this shit? You got to sit and go, well, maybe there's a part of me that enjoys the suffering. So if everything is suffering, well, I'm going to choose my suffering. So when my body goes, go have a cookie, I will literally walk it. I will walk my body to the pantry and I will get wormwood tea. I don't know if you guys ever had wormwood tea. I've talked about it before. It's awful. I'll make the tea and I'll drink the tea. Okay, now we're both suffering. All right, you wanted sweets? No, we're not doing this. We're fasting. You're not going to make me break my fast. Because if I break my fast, I'm going to feel bad, right? But it's either I feel bad from breaking my fast or I deny myself from the cookie. If they're both me feeling bad, at the very least, I'm going to choose the pain that's going to be beneficial to me. Choose the pain. To tie it back to the relationship. If you're in a situation with somebody, and I'm not saying like you just cut people off, and I'm only saying this for the keyboard warriors who like to virtue signal, right? For the rest of you guys know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? If you're looking at a situation and you go, okay, like all of these could be potentially painful. You don't have to be a victim to circumstances. You can at least choose your pain. If I'm in a relationship with somebody and it's not going, like this person is like not respecting my boundaries or whatever, but I don't want to be alone, right? You can kind of lay out all of the scenarios. Okay, I can leave them now. It's going to be painful. I can leave them in 2 years. It's going to be painful. I can leave them in 5. Right? Then you can pick the path, because your mind doesn't really have the ability to really you have the ability. You have the ability to see all of these, but your body tries to like avoid short-term pain. And it's like not, because it's a 3D, your body is 3D. It's a third dimensional entity. You have a 4D mind. So your mind can see into the future. Use that ability and start telling yourself, okay, if I stay in this situation, like it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse with it, right? So how can I move? What paths can I take to mitigate my pain? Because everything is painful. And by mitigating pain, right, or you choosing the least possible painful situation, you can also increase your pleasure, right? So go back to the tea analogy, right? If it's like I'm fasting, I'm supposed to break my fast at 3, and at 12, I would normally go and have a cookie. My body's telling me to go have a cookie. By denying myself the cookie and even having the tea, right? It's a short-term painful situation of just going, fuck you, no, we're not doing that, right? By 3, not only am I going to get that cookie, but I'm also going to feel really good about myself. Just for like a short-term change that I made at 12. Does it make sense? All right, I know it makes sense. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.